And here we go. Thank you, everybody, for joining the latest installment of the BG Insights Videocast. Today, I am joined again by my lovely colleague, Leah Gallagher, who runs our higher education practice, but also Mark DiPietro from Landmark College, one of our longer-standing education clients. I'm super excited about the conversation today because, one, it's good to hear from the client's perspective on how we are doing as their agency, but also, especially from Mark's perspective, being in the trenches in higher education, based on what's going on today, how to maintain your enrollment marketing process and win, frankly. So today is really kind of a rolling case study on how we've been working with Landmark College, particularly around the virtual accepted students event that we pulled off, which I think was fantastic. So I'm going to hand it off to Leah right now, and she will take us through some slides, and we'll get into the conversation.
Yeah, thank you, John. So I'm Leah Gallagher. I've been with the agency for over 5 years now, and had the opportunity to work with Landmark College for the majority of the time I've been here. So we've been going on, I think we're coming on 5 years of work with Landmark College now. Mark and I have had the opportunity to work together throughout the course of that. As Don mentioned, I run our higher education practice. So Mark and I are excited to, kind of run through a few quick slides here and then answer some questions on the process and the virtual accepted student week we put together. So Mark, I'll let you do a quick introduction of yourself if you don't mind.
Sure. Thanks, Leah. Hi, I'm the Director of Marketing and Communications at Landmark, and I've been at the college for almost 7 years. And if you don't know anything about Landmark, it was established 35 years ago, the first college specifically for students with learning disabilities. At the time, it focused on dyslexia, but we've expanded our student population to include other attention challenges and autism and students who have learning challenges that need some attention. So we're a very specialized small college, only about 400 to 450 students.
Great. Excellent. Thank you, Mark. So, I think one of the things what we really want to focus on today is a recent event that we did around virtual accepted students. As with many higher education institutions, Landmark has seen a challenge in not just digital marketing in this really crowded space while everything's going on with COVID-19 and having to pivot, the way that we market at a high level, but actually, I think one of the bigger challenges we've seen is how do you engage that bottom funnel? How do you engage those students who, are much further along in the process, who would be at decision points now, but don't have the opportunity to meet with people in person, don't have the opportunity to come to campus? How do you get in front of that audience and convince them in a really uncertain time that they should be making a commitment to your school for fall when we really don't know what fall looks like? I think Landmark College has done a particularly great job of that. So when we started this conversation around, okay, what does accepted student day look like? The first decision we made that it looked like a week. So, in conjunction with the marketing and admissions team, our team sat down and we looked at how do we structure an event that is going to engage prospective students, that's going to actually get them to show up and that's going to get them excited about the prospect of Landmark College. We wanted to create something that emulated that sort of white glove experience you'd normally get on a campus when you're visiting. And that's really difficult to do in a virtual environment. We certainly learned some things along the way, and we, I think, ended up having a really successful event. But we're excited to share and kind of pay forward some of the learning and insights that we were able to gather along the way. So without further ado, I'm going to run through some slides very quickly so that Mark and I can spend the majority of this time really talking through and answering questions that you might have. So first of all, as I mentioned, the first thing was looking at, right, how are we going to put this together? For us, it was really important. We've done a number of virtual events with Landmark College, and it was really important for us to look at how do we create an easy way for people to digest a lot of content. One of the challenges that, of course, we saw was when you're on campus, it's much more engaging because you're live, right? So, and there are a bunch of sessions that can be really kind of short, quick hit. But there's opportunity for Q&A in the middle. You can really have an engaging process. When you move that to a virtual platform, it's really important to keep in mind, okay, we're going to be talking at people a little bit. So how do we avoid doing that? So the first thing that we looked at doing structurally was finding the right platform to serve this on. Mark can talk more to this, but we use a platform called Blue Jeans, which Landmark College uses for all of their events, and it's been fantastic. Then we looked at, okay, so we'll use Blue Jeans for live events. Now, where do we host all of this information to make it really easy for our prospective audience? So we actually decided to create a virtual accepted student landing page that had a number of internal pages around it, and we created a theme for the week. So when we moved to that week-long model, we actually did the theme as LCE Shark Week. So we had an acronym of LCE Shark, and each day represented a different area of the college that we wanted to represent. So we created themes to keep people engaged with the content of that day. You can see on the slide here what that really looked like. So the image to the left here is, the main landing page, which hosted, the agenda for the day, content and resources. And if you look at the image on the right here, that's the internal page for content and resources by category of the different themes. And then we had an in case you missed it section. So when people miss live events, they could actually watch the recordings on their own time.
Hey, Leah, I got a quick question for you.
Yeah.
And actually for Mark, how does this, if you think about the sections here that you're driving people to, how would that mirror a physical experience? Are you still driving people to those particular experiences? Is it sort of just taking what you typically do in the physical and bringing it to this virtual experience? How does it mirror at all?
Yeah, that's a great question. Oh, go ahead.
No,
Leah,
please, Mark, you go ahead.
Because so many of our families, our students have had educational experiences that have been kind of up and down because of their learning challenges. Our parents tend to have a lot of questions. They want to know, they don't just come to an open house to find out about a major, they come to find out about every area of support, everything that happens in our, what we call our living and learning environment. So our open houses, even when they're, or accepted students days, even when they're just a day, are really involved, and they have a lot of tracks for parents to check out, and students, of course. So this really does mirror that, and that was some of the pre-planning that we did with Leah and her team, was figuring out exactly which pieces we needed to build into this.
Sure. Sounds like you're doing the same thing, just delivering it differently, right? Sort of the theme of the world these days.
Yeah, and while there's obviously, I think we were pretty realistic about the fact that no matter what, you lose something with not being able to have an in-person experience. The nice thing is, on the other side, we found that you gain some things too. We actually were able to deliver a lot more information and content than you would be able to in an in-person event over the course of the day. And the modality with which we delivered this allowed people to self-select a bit where their interests, were, and the areas that maybe they needed to focus in on. So, to Mark's point, there's a really diverse group of students and different interest families. So people were able to use this landing page and the content we were delivering day to day to self-select a little bit where are the areas I need more information to make informed decisions about whether or not Landmark College is right for my student. So that was a really great benefit from that. So, obviously, as you can see, we got great traction. As Mark mentioned, Landmark College is a really intentionally small school, that's delivering really quality education in a small environment for students. So we were really impressed with the website traffic that we were able to get and the engagement that we saw. One of the things that was really important once we decided how we were going to deliver this, it was really important for us to look at what do we need to put in front of our audience. So, Mark, I know you can speak to this better than I can, but bandwidth, I think, like anywhere, is always an issue. And so one of the things when our team came up with, hey, here's a list of all the content we want, I think, probably we collectively looked at it and said, now, how are we going to achieve that? Because as we know, the marketing and admissions teams have 100 other things going on and 100 different priorities. So the first thing that we did is we looked at, okay, of all the sessions that we want to create and all the content that we want to create, which of those should be live and which of those should be recorded? And for the recorded sessions, how are we going to leverage what we already have to make sure that we can deliver on all of this? So Mark and the team, sat down with our team virtually and went through and we looked at what assets already exist out there that we can repurpose. And then we put some framing around them. So, we use you can see on the top right corner here, we have kind of a logo and imagery that we used to tie together a lot of the videos and make the look and feel consistent, even on videos that were pre-existing. But we were able to find a lot of content that, was relevant to accepted students that we hadn't put in front of them before, but that already existed within the Landmark catalog. So that was one of the first things we did. Then we looked at, okay, how are we going to get the new videos that we need? And I think, I think one of the things that Mark and I both felt was really successful is we leveraged the community in a really impactful way. We hear all the time from clients that it can be really difficult to get faculty and staff buy-in, not because they're not interested in doing it, but again, because everyone's busy. So we made small asks. And one of the things we did is we created a Google form and we said, how are you willing to get involved? What participation can you give us? So we gave a lot of different options, and Mark and his team sent out appeals and really gave broad asks so that people could commit to something the way that they wanted to. And Mark, I think you can speak to this, but we got an overwhelming response of students, faculty, staff, administration who were willing to take part and provide content.
How does this compare, Mark, to a in-person sort of an event in terms of the volume of assets?
So I was joking that, half joking as we were leading up to this, that it was a little like producing the Oscars because we had so many different pieces to pull in. And as Leah said, we were making a lot of asks. So we were trying to figure out how to do that in a way that other people didn't feel overwhelmed by it. So we had the ability to do pre-recorded materials, selfie videos, but we were also having live panel discussions. I think that was one of the biggest parallels with a live open house is that we always have live discussions at an open house, but this was preparing 8 days of both recorded and live discussions. So we were asking people to, commit a couple of hours on a weeknight to come out and do this. But like Leah said, the response was overwhelming. We had the benefit too of a president who was very invested in this, and he put out the message to people that we were going to need cooperation. And yeah, we pulled it together from all corners of the campus and off the campus.
Because of this new process and new way of delivering this experience, were there any new challenges that popped up? I'm sure there were some challenges that go along with this anyways, but anything that popped up that you felt that was just sort of you never had to deal with before collectively as a team? A question for both you and Leah, of course, but and if so, how'd you deal with it?
Mark, I think one of the things that was interesting that the Landmark team brought to us when, our team kind of can get really excited about ideas sometimes, as Mark can attest to. And we said, oh, wouldn't it be great to get all these different students, to submit content? And I think the big challenge there was it would be great, but these students aren't on campus right now. So how are we going to collect that? So we actually used social media appeals and personal appeals. So Mark and his team, flagged here are a few students who we know would be willing and able to help, who represent our school well, and who can get involved and will get involved. But then we looked at how do we get involved with students who just want to support the school and want to see new students come on board. So we actually did social media appeals, and those worked really well as well. We got students who, submitted videos from their home, from their living room, from their dining room, from their bedrooms, talking about their experience at Landmark, talking about the awesome opportunities they had. So for me, Mark, I think that was an interesting challenge to navigate. I'm sure you have others, coordination of content, all those things, but I thought that was a really cool one.
Yeah, that's a great point because, normally when students are on campus, we can at least go out and kind of beat the bushes. We can show up at the dining hall or wherever and start asking some of those students to spread the word, but we couldn't do that this time. It was all done by emails and social media and text. Another challenge, I think, was the curation, from a staffing standpoint, the curation of all this stuff that was coming in. So we were getting tons and tons of video submissions, which was great. We wanted all that raw material, but at some point I know we were all like, and Leah's team did a great job of keeping track of who was sending videos and who was doing what. But I know, my team at one point was like, we don't even know what we have anymore. So we were kind of relying on you guys to keep track of all that, which was great.
Yeah. An overabundance of content is never a bad thing, right?
Yeah. And John, working with me, I love a good spreadsheet. So our team had, Google Docs going everywhere, and then, spreadsheets that kept track and curated all of that content. And I think one of the nice things was we did get so much content that there was stuff that we weren't able to use that we're now able to use, kind of post-event to put stuff together. We wanted to be sensitive to people were giving their time, so we want to make sure we use everything. So even things we weren't able to find a home for during the week of the events, we're now able to use in kind of post follow-up and things like that. It was really a great exercise.
Great.
So again, the content kind of ran the gamut. One of the things that we did is we looked at how do we push out that content, right? So we wanted to Mark's point, we needed to push things out in a more virtual way, obviously. So we really were heavily reliant on organic social media. We actually didn't use any paid social for this campaign because, it was an engaged audience, obviously. We focused specifically just on organic, and we got really great traction from the organic campaign. One of the things that we've been working on collectively with Landmark, I think over the course of the last few years, is building up Instagram as a channel. I think Instagram, obviously, as everyone knows, is really a great place to reach students. But Landmark College, because of, I think, the unique nature of the school and the population that they serve, traditionally Facebook has been a much stronger channel for Landmark, and that's because we are intentionally serving heavily to a parent population. One of the things we recognized as an opportunity here was to look at how do we do a better job of getting in front of students, because we want their buy-in on the decision as well. And this has been a long-term goal of Landmark, is to, have them equally kind of involved and invested in understanding the benefits of Landmark College so that they can, make the right decision for themselves in the college search process. And so getting them involved sooner is helpful for the college. So this was a great opportunity to use Instagram and to, really push out a lot through Instagram. One of the things we wanted to be conscious of was, yes, we put out Instagram, videos, we put out IGTV, but one of the things that was really important for us was also looking at how do we engage on Instagram. So we did things, as you can see here, like polls about what students' interests were, and that helped us to kind of figure out where do we want to build future content for students. So we were able to use this not just to look at, okay, how are we going to serve students with information, but how can we use it to engage students and get a better understanding of the population and what their interests are, so we can give them better content moving forward. Mark mentioned earlier, the President Peter Eden's engagement, and he was willing to do a video for us, which performed really well. We had students who were willing to do videos. So all of these performed really, really nicely. Here we have just some Snapchat filters. As I mentioned, we were really concerned with engagement and this not being something where we just spoke to the audience, but something where we gave the audience the opportunity to engage. So we actually created a series. These aren't even all of them. These were the ones we could fit on the page for today, but we created a series of Snapchat filters. So our design team worked with the Landmark College team to figure out, okay, how do we match up different, themes for the day with, filters that we want to be able to show. And actually, Kevin Main, the Vice President of Admissions, was able to use those during the live sessions over the course of the week. And he really, I think, Mark, you can back me up on this. He got a good kick out of them, but they are
pretty cool.
Yeah. And so, not only did we find, that presenters were able to use them, but students were downloading them on their own. We got some great downloads of these. So as you can see, there were a variety of them, but we were able to show different parts of campus, show academic buildings, those things.
How much fun did you have with the filters, Mark?
What was that?
How much fun did you have with the filters?
Well, Kevin Main, our VP for enrollment management, was the guy who really had fun with them. Every night when he kicked off the sessions, he would be in a different, outfit. Or my favorite one, I think, was study abroad when he was in Botswana and he was wearing his cap. And yeah.
Me too.
Well, on behalf of the agency, I do have to thank you, because obviously this idea sparked the ability for us to do it for our agency. If you can tell on my screen, I have the little BG logo, and we have the team also developed some hats, which is kind of cool. So
Nice.
it's just really cool. So thank you first and foremost for pushing our creativity, but this is a really cool part of the execution. Good stuff.
Yeah. And, the point here is really just visual engagement is important. And I think people are experiencing a little bit of, webinar fatigue, of, virtual event fatigue. So any way that you can find to make it fun and engaging, we found that to be really, really positive. And, Mark and I were really pleased. I think, reasonably, there was some concern about, are we going to keep people engaged for a full week, right? How are we going to do that? And we actually found that we had really strong attendance at events, and we also found that in addition to strong attendance, people stayed on for, a lot of the sessions ran over an hour each night, and depending on, there were a few that ran even longer than that, depending on the amount of presenting we had, that sort of thing. And we found that actually we had really low drop-off rates. People stayed on for the entire time. And I think a large part of that was we made the sessions engaging. So we did quick presentations to start, and then we opened it up, and families got the opportunity to ask their questions and share their, share their own concerns. And get to the heart of what they really wanted to know about Landmark College. So while there were, at certain events over 100 people on them, they were really personalized experiences.
Yeah. And Leah, I was going to say my favorite was the parents from or the family from Australia who were joining us every day with a 13-hour time difference. So they were getting up in the middle of the night to tune into our webcast, and then emailed us at the end saying they didn't want to miss a minute of it because they thought it was so engaging.
That's
Mark,
great.
That's a great
Good
point.
feedback.
Yeah. Yeah. And Mark, that's a great point and a great lead into, selecting times. We tried to select times that, it's tough because Landmark College has an international audience, right? So aside from the fact that a lot of students come, within the United States from the West Coast, East Coast, and everywhere in between, to Mark's point, there are international students as well. So selecting times was definitely, I think, something challenging, but something that we were able to navigate pretty well. So we ended up doing on the weekends 1 p.m. Time slots, and then during the weekdays 6 p.m. time slots, trying to be sensitive to as many time zones as we could. To Mark's point, I think we were so happy that the content was engaging enough that we were able to keep, those who were 13 hours ahead were still willing to attend and join. But to accommodate those who weren't, we also made sure that we had those recordings of sessions and those things so that, people could watch them at opportunities that presented themselves for them or fit into their schedule. And then also we made people available throughout the course of the week so that people felt like if they were watching a recorded session, they were still able to go back and, either connect with someone through the Facebook forum or send an email. And so I think one of the nice things that the admissions team did was really made themselves accessible, as they always do, but particularly throughout the course of the week. Speaking of direct communications, so we put out actually 30 emails around this event, which normally, sounds scary when people think about, again, that email fatigue component. And, but obviously where this was an accepted student audience, we had a little bit more of a captive audience, but we were really impressed with the engagement rate. So, as you can see, the open rates, pre-promotion were well over 50%, which was incredible. Hovered right around 50% during, and, post dropped a little bit, which is expected, but we're still almost near that 50% mark, which is really, really strong against kind of the benchmark of what we typically see in these sorts of events. So we were really excited about that. We also sent out text message reminders, and, each day we had a themed email. We segmented those for students and parents because, this is a really great opportunity to be able to segment the way that you talk to people. What students are interested in hearing about oftentimes is different than what parents are. So we were able to segment those communications and make them specific to each audience, which is really great and helpful. Mark, I don't know if you have anything you want to add there, but I felt, that the communications were really strong throughout the week.
Yeah, I would agree. I think you summed it up well. I think they were strong and varied enough that they were keeping people's attention.
Right. One thing, I will just say to wrap this one up is we made sure that we were always promoting the landing page, that we were promoting the specific content that day. Obviously different ways of getting in front of people is really important. So while we were sharing something on social, we were also sharing it for email. We were also making sure it was prominent on the landing page so that people could find the information that made sense. So organic social, hugely successful. As you can see, we got great impressions, engagement, link clicks, throughout the course of the week. We were really happy with this. Obviously it helps to bolster what we're doing across the board. So this is something that, getting that engagement during the week of gave us a great platform to, bring on new users and make sure that people were, staying engaged after the fact. So, we put together a series of images, polls, direct messaging and videos that help to support the theme of each day, but also, drive people to actions and create call to actions for people. So we were really happy with the social media engagement over the course of the week. So, in terms of what worked, organic social strategy, we were really happy with the live recorded sessions. Mark mentioned this, but we got a lot of great feedback that people were thrilled with those. We had really low drop-off rates, and we had the opportunity to really, I think, get to the heart of issues with people. I think one of the things I was really impressed with from the Landmark team was the candor that they provided during these sessions. I think sometimes people worry in a presentation that, you're not going to be able to get the same kind of quality conversation that you might be able to get from a one-to-one conversation. And I think the Landmark team did a really nice job of navigating questions and being able to answer, particularly in a difficult time. We expected to get a lot of COVID-19 questions. And I think we did in every session. And we got a lot of feedback from parents and students that they were really excited about the fact that Landmark College gave direct answers and real information that was available in the here and now. So, one of the things we always talk about is, with something like COVID-19, it's an unprecedented situation. We don't know what that's going to look like necessarily in a week or 2 weeks or a month. But Landmark College does a nice job of giving the information that's available at the time, giving direct answers, and making students and parents feel confident in what they're able to share. So I think that was a really strong point for me. And then again, just the website design, messaging, and engagement we thought was really strong as well. Mark, I'm sure you have your own thoughts on what really worked for this week. So I'd love to hear your input too.
Yeah, I think all of it was, the landing page idea with updating with links and new scheduling was really great. And we found people would be asking if it didn't get updated right away, like where's today's information, where's the schedule? So they were paying attention. So I think that speaks volumes to the fact that it was good content that they were looking for.
So I think, with that, Mark and I would love to answer other questions. Don, feel free to feed them into us. I think, again, I will say we learned a lot from this. I think, we had to put this together in a really short time frame, and we were able to do a lot with it. But, fortunately or unfortunately for everyone else, we've come up with a million different ideas for how we'd do the, more even going forward.
So let me ask you this, Mark, if there are, looking back based on what you've done, anything you would have changed or done differently?
No, I think, in a perfect world, we wouldn't have had to have pulled all this together in such a short time. But, we all got hit with the tsunami of COVID-19 and had to deal with it. So I think nothing really jumps out as things we would have changed. I think I really felt like as we were getting near the finish line with this, we all just felt like, wow, we really pulled that off and pulled it off really well. So I think just, having a little more time to do it would have been perfect.
Talk about the, I guess the dance that goes on between, an organization like yours that's well established and the agency like us that's obviously literally distance in terms of states. But how does that collaboration work? I know, I had the pleasure of, kind of onboarding this business when we first worked with you guys a while back, but I've now moved on to public affairs and some professional services stuff, and because it's in the talented hands of Leah and Ariel and others that are on the team. Talk about that that dance and that collaboration, including the folks that are in your team internally. I mean, it seems like there's a ton of moving parts in something like this. You can go through the slides, it looks like, it just kind of magically happens, but talk to me about the moving parts and the kind of the coordination that goes on there.
Sure. Well, I think we've, ever since we started the relationship with you guys, there's always been really good and open and frequent communication. We joke that we get tired of talking to each other because we're always on the phone and now on video conferences. So I think communication is just the key to anything like this, that we're all making sure we're on the same page.
Sure.
There are a ton of moving parts because, my staff is pretty small. I have an associate director and a webmaster / graphic designer. And then there's the admissions team. So there's counselors and there's people who were pulling some stuff together for us. And I think Leah and team have worked with us. We do a big weekly call where we're all on the line and we're all in the loop on what's going on. So there was never any who should I go to for this? I think we've established all those connections. So we know if you need, when you're going to need super fast website changes, Leah knew she could call Valerie at 7 a.m. or whatever time it was.
10 p.m. on a Friday, whatever. No.
Yeah.
Well,
so
I think you're. I've noticed this a lot with just how the Landmark brand has matured under Peter and your and others' direction. You've been able to be very fluid in how you are presenting the brand in front of your prospective students, and they're not your typical student, right? What I love about the story there is they're not the typical student, but when they're on campus, they are the typical student, which is awesome. It's been eye-opening just from my perspective working with you guys. But I'd love to sort of finish up here with you talking about what's next. Obviously, this has been a great micro example of all the great work you all are doing. But as we head towards the fall and uncertainty here, what's next for Landmark in terms of how you're going to engage with students? And just obviously you don't have to have all the answers now, but if there's anything that you want to plug now, it'd be great. Otherwise, I'd love to hear your thoughts about what reentry is going to look like for Landmark.
Sure. Well, as you said, there's so much uncertainty that I think we're all trying to deal with what the many scenarios could be. And Leah mentioned earlier the openness that people appreciate, and I have to give our president Peter Eden big props because he's really been a true leader through all of this and trying to make sure people know what we know when we know it. And in fact, we did a live webcast last week with prospective students for summer and fall, because we're still in that gray area with summer where we might have some programs on campus a little bit smaller, but like we run a big high school summer program, which will now be, we've just made the decision recently that will be online. So we're trying to shift our marketing focus to say, to point out to people that we've been leaders in this field for more than 3 decades. Whether it's online or on campus, we're gonna find a way to make the education work and be valuable. So I think that's that pivot area we're in right now, where we're trying to reassure and re-emphasize that we've got it and we know what we're doing, but we may not know all the details right now.
Yeah,
sure.
And Mark, I just want to add too. I think one thing, again, I've been really impressed with the Landmark College team and their ability to do all this, but one thing we were excited about collectively, I think, is the opportunity that, obviously a ton went into this week. And when you think about colleges, looking at creating an entire week of events in a really short time frame, one of the things that our team has been excited about from a marketing perspective is the ability to reuse some of this. Mark just made the point about delivering online education. So it gave a lot of great content to help secure and to help push out after the fact that speaks to Landmark's experience in this space, in a way that just writing an email that says, hey, don't worry, we can deliver great content online, isn't able to do. So one of the things that I'm excited about is it gives us a lot of opportunity in the future to help to, make the points that Landmark College needs to make for their prospective audiences in the near term and in the long term, regardless of whether they're on campus, in person. We've got a lot of great content that we can recycle and reuse to make sure that we're continuing to answer questions, to engage prospective audiences, and to help them understand the value of Landmark College.
Yeah, that's a great point, Leah. And I would just add that, this has really taught everyone, I think, what we can do. There's so many things that, because we get caught up in a regular cycle of having so many things that have to get done, we think out of the box and then say, well, let's stick that on the back burner until we have time to do it. And we had no choice right now. We had to innovate and figure out how to do everything in a different way. And now we know what we can do. So as Leah said, we have content and we have strategies for actually pulling those things off.
That's great. Well, if a prospective student or parent is watching this now or later, how can they get involved in the Landmark community, Mark?
So anyone can contact us several ways. You can email us at admissions@landmark.edu or marketing@landmark.edu, or my name, which is Mark DiPietro @landmark.edu, or check out our website, or there's just check out our Facebook page and send us a message.
Multiple touch points, right? That's the lesson here. Well, Leah, thank you. Mark, thank you. I'm looking forward to doing this again when you two come up with some other crazy idea to execute at the last minute and kick butt on it. But really appreciate you both sharing insights today, and we definitely will have you back on and talking about all the great things happening at Landmark. So for those that have tuned in, we appreciate it. We're the Belfort Group. Follow us at thebelfortgroup.com and at Belfort Group on the socials. So we'll see you all soon. Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.